Good afternoon, students. Am I audible?
Yes, sir. Good
Yes,
afternoon.
So we'll get started. So now we'll discuss the next topic in this chapter. As I told you, there are only actually 3 subtopics that are pending, out of which one is called as the power in an AC circuit. Okay. So here when we say power in an AC circuit, we are talking about the average power in a complete cycle. So that is what we call it as the power in an AC circuit. Okay. First, we know that the instantaneous EMF is E naught sine omega t, and the instantaneous current is I naught sine of omega t plus phi. So what is going to be the value of instantaneous power? Instantaneous power will be E naught sine omega t into I naught sine of omega t plus phi, since power is the product of EMF and current. Okay. When you do this, you will get E naught into I naught into sine omega t into sine of omega t plus phi. Right? Now listen. So this is the instantaneous value. So T instantaneous, we can write it as E naught I naught. What I will do is I'll multiply this equation with 2 and divide it with 2, so that 2 sine A sine B, okay, 2 sine A sine B according to math is given as cos of A minus B minus cos of A plus B. Okay, so this will be cos of, so 2 sine omega t plus phi, I will take it as A, and omega t I will take it as B. It will be cos of omega t plus phi minus omega t into cos of omega t plus phi plus omega t. Okay, the whole divided by 2. Copy till the step, guys. Okay, I hope you are done with this.
1 minute.
Yeah, right.
Done, sir.
Okay. This. So this is the instantaneous value of EMF. Now, what is going to be the average value? Sorry, instantaneous value of power. So what is going to be the average value? Average value will be integral of P dt, the whole divided by integral of dt. And we are calculating the average over a complete cycle. So that is why it is going to be 0 to capital T. So if I take this value and substitute it here, what will I get? Integral of 0 to t E naught I naught divided by 2. Here omega t and omega t will get cancelled. Cos phi into cos of 2 omega t, cos of 2 omega t plus 5 dt, the whole divided by capital T. Because integral of dt over a complete interval 0 to t is this value. Okay. Now, this E naught I naught divided by 2 into cos phi is not a function of time, because if you observe this expression, they are not dependent on time, because E naught is maximum value. It is a single value. I naught is maximum value. And cos phi, it doesn't have any time in it. So everything will come out of the integral. E naught I naught divided by 2, and this t will get multiplied with the 2. So it will be 2t into cos phi, integral of 0 to t cos of 2 omega t plus 5 dt. Wait. There is a minus. Wait, I made a mistake. Sorry, guys. So there is a minus sign here. Wait. Don't copy this. E naught I naught divided by 2 into this thing, right? So the whole thing multiplied with the minus sign. Okay. Now what will you have is, you will have E naught I naught divided by 2t into cos phi into integral of dt minus this E naught I naught by 2 will get multiplied with cos 2 omega t plus 5. So E naught I naught by 2 into integral of cos 2 omega t plus 5 dt between 0 to capital T. Here also between 0 to capital T. So what will happen here is E naught I naught divided by 2t into cos phi, integral of dt between 0 to t is capital T, minus, remember one thing, guys, cos or sine. Okay, cos or sine with whatever function inside, provided it is dependent on time. Okay, cos or sine integral over a complete interval 0 to t is always a 0. Okay, because this idea comes from the applications of integrals. I know you have not yet learned it, but as of now you can accept it. So what is the logic? Integral of cos 2 omega t plus 5 dt over a complete cycle is always a 0. Okay, so minus this thing is 0. T and t will get cancelled. So you will have E naught I naught divided by 2 into cos phi. What is this? This is actually the average power circuit. So average power is equal to E naught I naught by 2 into cos phi, which implies P average can also be written as E naught divided by root 2 into I naught divided by root 2 into cos of phi, where this E naught by root 2 is called as ERMS, I naught by root 2 is called as IRMS, and cos phi is called as power factor. Okay. So yesterday I told this term, right? Power factor. Remember it.
So I have a doubt, sir.
Tell me.
How did we get root 2, sir?
See, 2 I wrote it as root 2 into root.
Okay, sir, understood.
Yeah. Done. Now we need to understand why it is actually called as power factor. Yesterday was no. So if you see the average power of an AC circuit, it is given as the product of what? ERMS into IRMS into cos phi. Remember guys, I told you that RMS is the equivalent DC value, right? Similarly, IRMS is also the equivalent DC value. Okay. So had it been the average power for a DC circuit, how will you solve it? It is just the product of EMF and the current. Correct? Whereas when you calculate the average power of an AC, what are you doing? You are multiplying the ERMS and the IRMS. Along with that, you are able to get the answer for the average power only when you multiply it with a multiplication factor, which is called as the power factor. So that is the reason given here. See, average power is equal to virtual EMF into virtual current multiplied with cos phi. So if you just multiply ERMS and IRMS like how you do in the case of a DC circuit, that does not give the actual power. And that ERMS into IRMS is only called as an apparent power. Okay. So it will give us the actual or the true power only when multiplied with the factor cos phi, and the factor cos phi is what is called as the power factor. That is reason why in some of the books they define cos phi as the ratio of true power and the apparent power. Okay. So true power divided by apparent power is also called as power factor. So that is a basic definition. Okay. But mathematically, cos phi is also equal to what I told you, R divided by Z. It is applicable for RC, RL, and RLC circuit. Okay, please write it down. Power factor is defined as the ratio of the true power to the apparent power of an AC circuit, and its value varies between 0 to 1. So the power factor of an LCR circuit is given as cos phi is equal to R divided by Z. Okay. Now comes an important question. What is this phi? Phi is actually the phase difference between EMF and current, right? If that is the case, then the power factor for a purely inductive or a capacitive circuit is how much? So power factor is cos phi. For a purely inductive or a capacitive circuit, phi is 90 degrees. If you take 90 and substitute here, then what will you get the power factor as? The power factor will come out as 0. Sorry, the power factor will come out as 0. Whereas for a purely resistive circuit, the power factor will come out as 1. Guys, are you able to understand why it is 1? Because for a purely resistive circuit, what is the value of phi? It is 0 degrees because the EMF and the current are in the same phase. Right? When you substitute it, you get the answer as 1. So hence, the power factor assumes the maximum value for a purely resistive circuit and minimum value for a purely inductive or capacitive circuit. Okay, so please write it down.
So I have a doubt, sir.
Tell me.
How did we get the phi value, sir? How do we find the phase difference?
It is known, no. See, for capacitor, if E is equal to E naught sine omega t, what is the value of I? Go and check. What happens
I
when
not
an AC?
sin.
No. It is I naught sine omega t plus pi by 2.
Okay, so now I understood.
Yeah. So that is why the phase difference is 90 degrees. Okay. So this is all about power factor, guys. I hope things are clear, right? Now, the next topic that we will discuss is, first we'll finish transformer and then we will go on to the LC oscillations. 1 minute. Just a minute, guys. Sorry, I had written so much content. Okay, listen. We'll go to the next topic, that is Lenz's law. Transformer. So what does a transformer mean? So basically, what happens is, see the power which the EMF which we get at our house, if it is 230 volt AC, what generally happens is, at the production house, that is in the EB office, what will happen, or the power transmission place, what will happen is the power that is getting generated will not be 230 volt, rather it be somewhere around 400 or 440 volt. Okay, so we cannot have that amount of power being, that amount of EMF being transferred to our house. Our house appliances need only between a range of 220 to 240 volt. If that should happen, what you need to do is, what you need to do is, you need to step down the voltage. Step down means the one which is getting produced is 440 volt, but when it comes to your place, it should come out as 220 volt. You need to bring it down. For that, we need an electrical device, and that electrical device is what is called as a transformer. So you can ask me a question. So does the transformer only decrease the value from a high value? No. So transformer is that electrical device which is used only for converting an alternating current. Please underline this. Which converts alternating current at low voltage into a high voltage, or vice versa. Means you have a low voltage device in your hand. Okay, you have a low voltage alternating current source in your hand, but if on the other side, your load means your electrical device, whichever is there, it needs a higher voltage. Then what we can do is, between the voltage that you have, the source that you have, and the load, there can be an intermediate device which is called as transformer that can be used. Okay, so based on whether it is increasing the voltage or decreasing the voltage, it is basically classified into two types. If it increases the input voltage, it is called as the step-up transformer, and if it decreases the input voltage, it is called as the step-down transformer. Okay, please make a note of all these points. So basically, what is a transformer? Transformer is an electrical device which is used for converting only an alternating current at low voltage into a high voltage, or the vice versa. Similarly, if it increases the input voltage, we call it as a step-up transformer. If it decreases the input voltage, it is called as a step-down transformer. Okay. Now, this is the basic diagram. Okay, there is a schematic diagram. It is not the actual way a transformer will look. This is only the idea of the principle. So basically, for this kind of a process to happen, A transformer works on the principle of mutual induction. So transformer works on the principle of a mutual induction. Okay, means if an AC source is connected on the left-hand side and there is a change of flux taking place through this coil, there will be the same flux that will get linked on the other side and EMF is generated here. So you remember, I hope you guys remember what is mutual induction. So mutual induction is basically the process where there will be a change in flux taking place at one of the coils and there will be an EMF getting induced in the neighboring coil. Okay. So is it clear till this step?
Yes, sir.
Right. So please make a note. It works on the principle of this mutual induction. That is, when a changing current is passed through one of the two inductively coupled coils, there is an EMF induced in the set up in the other coil. Okay.
So what is inductively coupled, sir?
Means they both are means they can exchange the flux between them. That is the meaning of mutual induction. Means flux is generated in one, the flux will get linked with the neighboring coil also. So for example, here, this coil, I don't know why my pen is not right. Just a minute. This coil and this coil are said to be mutually coupled. Inductively coupled. Okay. Now listen to this. So the construction of a transformer. So for mutual induction to take place, you need two coils, right? Where one of the coils will be connected to the power source and the other coil will be the one where the load is connected. Okay. So if you talk about the one where the power source is connected, that is called as a primary coil. And the coil across which the load is connected is called as the secondary coil. Okay. Now listen. So a transformer essentially consists of two coils of insulated copper wire having different number of turns. So this is very important. Okay. If this kind of a principle has to take place, they should have different number of turns. Why it is so, you'll understand in the derivation part. So this is the construction. So transformer consists of two coils of insulated copper wire having different number of turns and they will be wound on the same soft iron core. The reason why we are using soft iron core is because it is having less retentivity and coercivity. So that is the reason why we use a soft iron core. Okay. Now listen, the coil P to which the electrical energy is supplied is called as the primary, and the coil from which the energy is drawn or output is obtained is called as the secondary. Okay. Now what happens is, there will be some loss and all those things. That loss I will tell you at the end. Okay, I'll explain it now. So sometimes what will happen is, there will be a flux which will get generated here. Are you able to understand this? There will be a flux which will get generated here. And this flux will get linked to the other coil also. Why is it happening? Because you're using a laminated iron core so that this flux is not escaping to the surroundings. Okay. But the fact that we need to remember here is this flux is alternating, means it is changing with respect to time. So this is an alternating flux. due to which what will happen is there will be eddy currents that will get generated. Okay. So for us to avoid this eddy currents to get generated, what we need to do is we need to use a laminated core. Okay. Secondly, what is the core that you're using? Core means the one which is holding these two wires. So what is the core that you're using? You're using an iron core. Last chapter, we learned one thing. You remember there is something called as hysteresis. What is hysteresis? Hysteresis is basically a process where a cycle of magnetization and demagnetization happens. So because of the high permeability of soft iron, what will happen is the entire magnetic flux due to the current in the primary coil practically remains in the iron core and hence passes fully through the secondary coil. Okay, so this also prevents the stray currents being generated in the conductors lying around and consequent power losses. Stray current means the current which is getting generated from the outside source. Okay, that can be avoided by using what? By using a laminated iron core. So can you guys tell me how is the construction? So in the construction, what are you supposed to know? A transformer consists of a soft iron core. Around the soft iron core, there are two wires which are wound, where one of the wires is connected to the AC source, which we call it as the primary wire or the primary coil, and the one which is connected to the load is what is called as the secondary coil. Am I clear?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
So when you do that kind of a winding, you can either do it in this way or in this way. What is the difference between the first and the second case? So in the first, what will happen is the flux that is getting generated will get linked with the other coil through the core. Correct? Whereas in the second case, if this is taken as the first coil and this is the second coil, the flux that is getting linked with the second coil will directly pass common to both the first and the second coil. Are you able to understand? Because here they are wound coaxially. Now you logically think and tell me, in which scenario will the phenomenon of mutual induction be maximum? So obviously it is going to be in the second case, right? Why? Because we are not using a medium for the flux to get linked. Correct? Hence, it is going to be maximum in the second case. Okay. So this is all about the construction. Now the next question is, what is the working of it? How does it work? Can you guys think of it? So what happens across the primary coil? Across the primary coil, there is an alternating current which flows through the primary coil. So it will generate an alternating magnetic flux in the core, which also passes through the secondary. Right? So there will be an alternating flux that will get generated across the primary, which will also pass through the secondary. So this changing flux, what does it do? It sets up an induced EMF in the secondary, and we call it as a self-induced EMF. Sorry. This changing flux sets up and induces EMF in the secondary. Along with inducing an EMF in the secondary, it will also induce a self value, which is also called as self-induced EMF. So what are the two things happening? Because of the alternating flux, there will be an EMF that will get generated here. Correct? So this EMF is getting generated according to the principle of or phenomenon of mutual induction. But due to the alternating flux, what will happen is across this coil also there will be a self-induced EMF. Guys, are you able to understand this point?
yes, sir.
Good. Okay. Assuming there is no leakage of magnetic flux, then the flux linked with each turn of the primary will get linked with each turn of the secondary. Okay, that is the reason we are actually trying to, that is what we are trying to achieve by using a laminated iron core and everything, right? We are trying to avoid the flux leakage, right? But you know what will happen in reality? What did we say? We told that there is going to be no flux leakage, but in reality, there will be some amount of flux leakage that will happen. So here, the situation that we are considering is an ideal situation. Okay, then what is going to be the theory involved behind this? So this is how it works. Now let us see the theory. Now, what we are taking is, we are considering a situation where there is no load that is connected across the secondary. The reason why we are doing this, it is like this, the diagram is like this. Primary winding, which is connected to the AC source, and secondary winding, which is connected, which is an open circuit. Okay. So consider the situation where there is no load. The reason why we are saying no load is because no load means no resistance. So if resistance is there, there will be power loss and all those things. Hence, we are saying when no load is connected across the secondary, we are deriving only under that condition. Then its terminals are open. Suppose if I say N1 are the number of turns in the primary and N2 are the number of turns in the secondary, then can I say E1 is equal to minus N into d phi by dt? And induced EMF in the secondary is E2 is equal to minus N2 into d phi by dt. Guys, are you able to understand this? What is this E1? This E1 is the self-induced EMF. Whereas this E2 is the mutually induced EMF. Okay. Now, if you observe an important point, here I took the number of turns in the first case as N1, second case as N2, but I didn't make any changes in the values of flux. Why? I wrote it as d phi by dt in both the cases. I didn't write it as d phi 1 by dt and d phi 2 by dt. Why? Let me see how much you guys have understood.
The flux induced will be same only.
Yes, the flux that is getting linked with both the coils will be the same. That is the reason. Okay. Now, if you divide both, if you divide the mutually induced EMF and the self-induced EMF, E2 divided by E1, we will get minus N2 divided by minus N1. Minus and minus will get cancelled. You will get N2 divided by N1. So, this is the first formula that we are going to learn with respect to the transformers. You can ask me why this formula is used actually. To understand how much will be the EMF that you get generated depending on the number of turns. Okay. So E2 by E1 is equal to N2 divided by N1. So have this in your mind. Okay.
We find EMF from number of turns here, sir.
Sorry, EMF?
From the number of turns in the coil.
N stands for number of turns. That means, see, I'll tell you why we are using this. If you observe, these are there now. I told you in the construction. A transformer essentially consists of two coils of insulated copper wire having different number of turns. No, so with this different number of turns, what we can do is it will be easy for us to find out what will be the value of EMF that is getting induced across the second cell.
Okay,
I'll tell you,
sir.
if I do a problem, you'll understand it. Okay. So this first formula, make a note of it. Now, I told you E1 is what? E1 is the self-induced EMF. But if you remember, the primary coil, apart from the self-induced EMF, it is also connected to an alternating source. Means there will be an EMF due to this also, no? Guys, are you able to understand? Let E be the EMF applied to the primary. This is the alternating EMF I'm trying to talk about. Let E be the EMF induced across the primary. then by Lenz's law, what can I say? The self-induced EMF E1 opposes E, because self-induced EMF is also called as back EMF. If you guys recollect it, it is also called as back EMF. So this EMF E, which is due to the source, will be opposed by the back EMF. So E minus E1 will be the total EMF across the primary coil. Okay. So listen. E, and there will be an EMF getting generated here. The EMF will always try to oppose this according to Lenz's law. Then due to the resultant of these two, that is due to E minus E1, there will be a current in the circuit, right? That current in the circuit, if I call it as I1, I1 will be multiplied with the resistance of this coil. Okay. This is what this basic Ohm's law. E minus E1 is equal to I1 into R, where I1 is the primary current. Are you able to understand? But here, what we do is we take the value of R to be very small, means the resistance of this copper wire is considered to be very small. That if you take this and substitute it here, then E minus E1 will be 0, so that we can conclude that E will be equal to E1, meaning the self-induced EMF E1 here and the EMF applied across the primary source are taken to be the same. Okay. Now what will be the formula is the same formula only. I just gave you an explanation of why we are replacing E with E1. So E2 by E1 is equal to N2 divided by N1, where this N2 by N1 is defined as what is the number of turns in the secondary to the number of turns in the primary. And this has a name called as turns ratio of the transformer, or it is also called as transformation ratio.
Yes.
Now see, now I have some questions. So what does a step up transformer mean?
It converts low voltage to high voltage.
Means E2 will be greater than E1. If E2 is greater than E1, can I say N2 is greater than N1? So for you to design a step-up transformer, you need to maintain the number of turns in the secondary coil to be more than the number of turns in the primary coil. Okay. So if N2 by N1 is ratio greater than 1, then E2 will be greater than E1. Means the output voltage is greater than the input voltage, which we can call it as step-up transformer. Similarly, what we can say is if N2 is less than N1, then the number of turns is less than, then the turns ratio is less than 1, then you will call it as a step-down transformer. Okay. And it is very, very important to note that what are all the assumptions we have taken into consideration to come to the conclusion that E2 by E1 is equal to N2 by N1. So they are very simple. It is like this. So please make a note. The following assumptions are taken into consideration to derive at equation number 1. The first thing is we considered that the primary resistance and the current are small. First assumption. Okay. Secondly, we assumed that the same flux is getting linked with both primary and the secondary windings, and the flux leakage from the core is taken to be negligibly small quantity. Okay. And thirdly, the terminals of the secondary are open and the current taken from it is very small. So this is the third assumption. Okay. So that is why we started the theory itself with this thing, no? Considering the secondary coil to be open only, we started the derivation. Okay. And we assumed the flux linkage with both the coils is same. That is why we didn't take d∅1 by dt and d∅2 by dt. Similarly, the primary resistance was assumed to be small. That is why E minus E1 is equal to I1 into R, where this becomes 0 because of lower value. That is why we got E is equal to E1. Okay. So these are the three assumptions. This can be an MCQ question. They'll give you different options and they'll ask you what are all the assumptions that we have taken. You need to know. Okay. Next is currents in primary and secondary. So till now we saw the EMF in the primary and secondary. Now we are taking the currents in primary and secondary. So first thing, we are assuming that the transformer is ideal. So that when it is ideal, what will happen? We can assume that there is no energy loss at all. So when there is no energy loss, we can say it is 100% efficient. Means the input power, whatever is the input power, is exactly appearing as the output power. Means we know that input power is E1 into I1. Output power is E2 into I2. So output power is E2 into I2. Then we can say E2 by E1 is equal to I1 by I2 because they are inversely proportional to each other. But E2 by E1 is equal to N1 by N2. So if you're interested or if there is a question where they're asking you what is the value of primary current and the secondary current, then we can take the help of this formula. Okay. Am I clear, guys? Is there any doubt? Please let me know if there is any point you wouldn't understand.
Could you explain those three assumptions?
Assumptions. Okay. So the three assumptions are the primary resistance and the secondary current are small. This is the first assumption we took into consideration. You remember EMF is this E is the EMF of the source, the alternating source, and E1 is the back EMF. E minus E1 we wrote it as I1 into R. But we came to a conclusion that E is equal to E1. How did we get it? Because I1 and R were taken to be very small values so that their product is 0. So that is the meaning of primary resistance and current are small. Is the point clear?
Yes, sir. Clear.
Secondly, we assume that the same flux gets linked with both primary and the secondary windings. So we wrote E1 is equal to minus N1 into d∅ by dt and E2 is equal to minus N2 into d∅ by dt. Correct? So we didn't take it as d∅1 by dt and d∅2 by dt. So we assume that the flux linked with both the coils is the same. Right?
Yes,
and third, how did we start the derivation? We assumed that the secondary coil is open. Means it is not connected. When it is open, what can you say? Almost the current drawn by it is 0 because it's not going to be in a loop. The current is not going to be in a loop. So the terminals of the secondary are assumed to be open or the current taken from it is very small.
okay,
Clear?
sir, I understood now.
Yes. Okay. So since if you observe I1 by I2 is equal to N2 by, sorry, wait, it's N2 by N1. Sorry guys, sorry. This is N2 divided by N1 because E2 and N2 are directly proportional. But current is inversely proportional to number of turns. So what we can conclude is step-up transformer steps up the voltage, but it will step down the current. Okay, steps down the current exactly in the same ratio. Means if there is a step-up transformer, let's say the current has got doubled. In a step-up transformer, the EMF has got doubled. Then what will happen to the current?
It reduced by half.
It will reduce by half. That is the meaning of same ratio. Similarly, a step-down transformer steps down the voltage but steps up the current exactly in the same ratio. Okay. So, if you have to speak about the efficiency of a transformer, efficiency basically everybody knows what is the meaning of efficiency. It is the output power divided by the input power. Right. So, output power divided by input power into 100 is going to give you the efficiency. So generally, if you check the efficiency of real transformers, it is fairly high. It is between 90 to 99%, but you cannot achieve 100%. But in the derivation, what did we assume? We assumed it to be an ideal transformer so that there is no power loss. Means it was 100% efficient. But in reality, it does not happen. That is why we have all these checkpoints. That is the reason there will be different kinds of losses that will be occurring in it. What those losses are, we will see it now. So these are also important, guys. Listen to this. So the main causes for the energy loss in transformers are due to these. First thing is copper loss. Even before you read, you will be able to understand. What do you mean by copper loss? What are the windings made up of? Windings are made up of copper wire. And we know that copper is a conductor. So every conductor will have resistance associated with it. So what will happen when current is passed through a resistor for a certain amount of time? There will be heat will get generated, right? So that is the reason why some energy is lost due to the heating of copper wires that are used in the primary and the secondary windings. And the power loss is given by the formula I square R. The question is, so they will ask you a question like this. In a transformer, how will you reduce the power loss? They'll give you options. Okay. So what in this context, what we are learning is what are all the different types of power losses or energy losses and how can they be rectified? Okay, so how can you minimize it? By using thick copper wire. How does a thick copper wire help us? Because thick copper wires have low resistance. Logic is very simple. R is inversely proportional to A. We have this formula, no? R is equal to rho into L divided by A. Since R is inversely proportional to A, what can you say? If the thickness of the coil is more, then the resistance is going to be less. When you use less resistance, what will happen? Power loss will be less. Okay. Second thing, the loss that will occur is due to the eddy current. Now, question is, why does an eddy current get generated? Because you have wound this coil around a metal, right? There is a primary coil that is wound around the metal, and due to the alternating source, there will be a continuous change of direction of flux taking place. When there is a change of flux taking place inside the metal, what will happen? There will be small loops of current that will get generated, and those currents we know they are called as eddy currents. And there will be a loss due to these eddy currents, and this loss will also be in the form of heat. So the alternating magnetic flux induces eddy currents in the iron core, which leads to some energy loss in the form of heat. Then how do you reduce it? Obviously, by using a laminated iron core. So laminated iron core is what is going to solve the problem of eddy current loss. Third, hysteresis loss. So what do you mean by hysteresis process? I already told you. There will be a complete cycle of magnetization and demagnetization happening, due to which there will be a small delay between the input and the output parameters. Right? So the alternating current carries the iron core through cycles of magnetization and demagnetization. So work is done in each of these cycles and is lost in the form of heat. Here also energy is lost in the form of heat only. Okay. And this loss is what is called as hysteresis loss. And how do you minimize it? By choosing a core which has a narrow hysteresis loop. If you guys remember what it is, if you use a soft iron core with a narrow hysteresis loop, you can reduce this hysteresis loss also. So all the three losses, whether copper loss or eddy current loss or hysteresis loss, everything is lost in the form of heat only. Okay. Last, see, this is the last point in your textbook, but I will tell you one more point also. The fourth kind of loss is flux leakage. Means the magnetic flux produced by the primary coil will not be completely linked to the secondary coil. So some of the flux, what will happen? It will be lost into the air, right? It will get leaked to the surroundings. This loss can be minimized by winding the primary and the secondary coils one over the other. Means this kind of a winding should take place. We saw two diagrams. No, in those two diagrams, you should use the second one. They should be wound coaxially, to put it simple, so that the flux leakage is minimized. Okay. And the last kind of a loss is called as humming loss. As the name suggests, it is a loss in the form of sound. Okay. So as the transformer keeps working, what will happen is its core length increases and shortens during each cycle of the alternating voltage due to a phenomenon called as magnetostriction. Okay. And what will happen is, due to this kind of a continuous elongation and compression process, there will be a humming sound that will get generated. So in this case, what will happen is the electrical energy is lost in the form of sound. In the other cases, it was lost in the form of heat. In some cases, it will be lost in the form of light. But here we don't have it. See, generally the energies are lost in three forms. What are the forms? Sound, heat, or light. So first three cases, it was lost in the form of heat. The fifth case, it is lost in the form of sound. The question is, how will you be able to treat it? We need some acoustical treatment, which is, as I told you, it is not there. It is not a part of your syllabus. I just gave it as an extra point. So we need to do some acoustical treatment for it, for this sound to get trapped. That's it. Okay. So this is all about transformers. So we are done with transformer. There is one last subtopic that is pending, which is LC oscillations, which is a very, very, very simple concept. Maximum it will take 5 minutes to explain. That's it. Okay. So in the next class, we will see that topic and we will solve some problems from NCERT. With that, we will be done with the term 1 portions. Okay. Any other doubt, guys, from today's class?
No doubts, sir.
Okay. Things are clear, we can wind up.
Will you be sharing this in the group, sir?
Which one? You want me
PDF.
you want this PDF? Oh, yeah, I'll do it. The one which I've
Thank
written
you.
is fine, right? Like I wrote some
Yes,
details
sir.
on it.
No problem, sir.
That's fine, right? Okay. Okay, I'll share it.
Sir, can you send this for the magnetism and matter also, sir? For that lesson also, can you send this PDF, sir?
You can just go through the material. That itself is good, actually.
Sir, but it's so
You'll
small.
unnecessarily get confused with too many things. Other than I'm not sharing. You want it, I will share. I don't have a problem, but you should not get confused.
So,
Even
the
the
same
same
thing is
thought.
there in the book, sir.
It is almost the same.
Then it's
You
fine,
read
sir.
it. You read it. If there is any subtopic that you guys want help with, you feel that my lecture notes is better than the study material that is given, then please bring it to my notice. I'll give it. I don't have a problem.
Okay,
giving.
sir.
Content is ready. I don't have a problem giving, but I'm just concerned about too much information should not confuse you. That is what I'm concerned. Okay.
Okay,
Just go
sir.
through it. But if you still want to, do let me message me personally. Okay, but this I will share it now itself. Okay. That's it, guys. I'll see you all in the
Okay.
next class.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.